So I just wanted to do a quick little demonstration on the simplest way to tell between the various common forms of antique photography. I see this all the time on eBay and out in shops. People don't really know what they're looking at, so they just kind of call it one thing or the other. But there's a real simple way to just look at the three main types and tell the difference. So you got your three main forms. You have daguerreotypes, ambrotypes, and tintypes. So the main difference is this. Daguerreotypes are the earliest form, and they're basically an image that is on a photosensitive piece of copper and has been silvered. So it has this very distinctive mirror image reflectivity to it. So you see how I can't really look straight on without getting that mirror. That's just how they are made, and this will always be a daguerreotype no matter what you look at. Now you can see on the back, you'll see that they have this old sealing tape, and that was to keep the image from moving around and dust from getting into or on top of the image, because that surface is extremely fragile, and if you were to even touch it slightly, it would rub right off. And you have an example of that on this loose one. Now I found this like this, so you actual collectors don't hate me, but I use it as an example to show. So you can see there's scratching, there's rub marks. Somebody had opened this up. So, but you still see that mirror image, and that's the silver. And you can see it's just a piece of copper that's no longer sealed. But you can tell sometimes they'll have plate stampings on them, but that's really more advanced when you get into the hobby. But so that's a daguerreotype. Now you get into ambrotypes, which came right after daguerreotypes, and you get a couple of different examples of them. So you'll have clear glass, which is the earliest, and that's this guy right here. And you can see, now this is where you see the most trouble, is people not being able to tell the difference between tintypes and ambrotypes, because they look and can look very, very similar. And when you look at the back of this, it looks like it's on a piece of metal, right? But if you were to actually open that up, that's just a japanned piece of metal creating the backing that makes this a positive image. Now, ambrotypes are actually images that are directly on a piece of glass. And here's an example. So you can see that this is on a piece of colored glass. So it doesn't need that backing. But if you hold it up to the light, see how the light goes right through it? So that's a clear sign of an ambrotype. You'll always be able to hold them up to the light, and they will be translucent. You'll be able to see the negative. Now this one, the clear glass, I don't want to open it, but they'll either have a piece of metal on the back that's blackened, or the back of the actual glass will have lacquer applied to it, which creates the back. But if you were to open this up, it would just be a clear piece of glass that when you hold up to the light, you see right through it. So that's how you discern if an image is an ambrotype. Now, if it's in the frame and you don't want to open it up, you can kind of tilt it towards the light, and you see how you'll get that negative that looks a bit deep. That's one way, but it's not also guaranteed, because depending on the emulsion on a tintype, it could do that as well. So here's a tintype, a big one, and you angle it to the light, you don't really get anything on it. Flip it over, you see clearly that it's on tin, and hold it up to the light, blocks the light, no light comes through that. So the trick is really with tintypes and ambrotypes, because if you're looking at a cased image, it might be hard to tell. So if you put these side by side, the color is kind of the same. You know, the toning. It's not extremely different. Now this is much later than this, so the image quality is going to be different, but you can see the tone can be easily confused. But when you compare it next to this, I mean, it's just night and day. If you do find daguerreotypes, do not open them unless you know what you're doing, because it is extremely easy to damage that image. Just even opening in the mat will cause abrasions when it moves, you know, and you don't want to end up ruining a piece of image, you know, a piece of history like this unfortunate soul. It's not, I mean, totally dead, but there's a lot of damage from somebody who tried to clean it. Got fingerprints in it, you know. So I just use this as an example to show people. But hopefully that helps and clears up some stuff if you're out and you're interested in old photos. Also, easiest trick in the book, if you carry a magnet with you to tell between the three, is that a magnet will stick to a tintype because it's on a piece of metal. So now, again, not 100%, because if the Ambrotype has a metal backing like this, it'll stick. But if it doesn't, and it's on regular color, if it's on colored glass, or if it's just lacquered, it won't stick, and it will also not stick to daguerreotypes.